What's going on, guys? I'm glad you could join me today for episode 7 of Privateer and Friends. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded a video. You know, it's been busy and everything, and I had my 3-week drill not too long ago, and it has been busy ever since then. Today, we're going to talk about vetting drivers. I meant to do a video on this a week or so ago, but you know, it just being on the road and everything, we get busy and whatnot. But we're going to just jump right into it. So the first thing that you need to look for, or when you start talking to these guys, you want to get an idea of their experience, and you need to be clear on what you're looking for up front, like whether you're interviewing for a CDL class truck or you're interviewing for a non-CDL class truck, because those are two different set of requirements. And also whether your driver is going to be a CDL driver or a non-CDL driver, because those also have different sets of requirements that you'll be trying to meet. Like first thing you're going to do when you get a new driver, that I've noticed, is make sure they fill out the complete application, because that's going to give you a big indicator of how competent they are as an individual. Not hating on anybody for their competency level, but if you got a guy that only fills out their name and signs the bottom, that's a red flag, a big red flag. You may not want to go with that. I found a sample application from the FMCSA. So I'm going to throw that up on the screen for you guys. This is probably just a really good way, a really good route to go when you're getting a driver's application together, because legally they have to have certain information on the application, like right here, what they'll be expected to do, their operations, commercial vehicles, descriptions, qualification outlines, and here's some stuff that they'll need, like a copy of their medical card, physical, the road test, got a road test, application of employment. They'll need their driver's license. See, these are just different. I didn't have anything like this in mind, but like right here, they'll need their driver's license, their MVR, which, depending on what company you're using for insurance, you can get that either free or relatively cheap. Here's what I was talking about. Like, I've had guys that just fill out the name portion of the application and put their phone number down, and that was it. And usually, if we ended up working with those guys, they more times than not, they don't turn out to be that well of drivers, just because of whatever reason. They just don't work out very well. Scroll them down. All right, this is a big one right here. Yeah, like listing of accidents. any traffic tickets, because that's going to be a big one. It'll affect your insurance. And then the employee verification. I've actually got one of these in my inbox I got to do on a guy. And if they don't list any, like if they tell you they've been driving for any substantial amount of time and they don't list anything here, or they only list like one, that's, kind of a red flag. Like, why are you only listing, such limited driver's experience? All right, the road test. Now, unless they've changed it, if a driver has CDLs, they're not required to do this road test, probably because they had to do a road test before they got their CDLs in the first place. But if they're a non-CDL driver, you have to give them a road test. And here are some minimum requirements that they have to pass. And then you can also add, other stuff in here, like I would make guys chain and tarp and strap to, make sure they got some kind of basic understanding of what they're going to be doing. You got a certificate of the road test. And then this goes into the medical stuff, medical evaluation summaries, physical. You gotta have a physical. And if you're vetting a driver and the driver, you tell them, of course, you gotta go take a drug test, and they tell you that it's going to be a while because they have to detox their system, you may want to stay away from that guy. Also, just because if he has a wreck and he's got, marijuana or whatever in his system, then it's going to be a real bad day for your company. They don't really like that very much when guys have controlled substances or weed or alcohol in their system. Also, once you hire a new guy in, you got to send him for a drug test, and I believe there's a certain amount of time they can drive after they take the drug test, but just be aware that if they do fail the drug test, which had people fail the drug test, they are immediately disqualified from operating that commercial vehicle. Or, if they have a wreck or something, it's going to be fucked. Just fucked beyond all belief. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these guys. Also, some stuff I like to talk about is, especially if they're non-CDL drivers, obviously you want to ask them what kind of experience they have as far as driving trucks. And a lot of times, if they don't have any experience, or, they'll say, yeah, I got experience driving trucks. Well, you got to specify, what the truck is, or they're just going to assume their Toyota Tacoma is a truck and they have experience, which is by far not the case. Also, when you ask, well, do you have any experience pulling trailers? You have to specify, hey, we got 40-foot goosenecks or 53-foot step decks. They gross this much weight, because I've had people say, well, I've pulled my grandmama's lawnmower down to the park and mowed the grass twice a month, and, it's like 8 feet long. It's not exactly on the same level because of the just day-to-day requirements that we will have to do when you're backing these trailers and making sure that they, you don't run over shit. You would think, hey, don't run over shit is a pretty simple thing to not do, but you'd be surprised. Like, I was at a truck stop. This was the week before my last year. It was the middle of September, and I got woke up by this dude screaming, hey, that's my truck. what the fuck are you, boom, you know, and you hear shit crashing and metal bending. And like, I got out of my truck real fast, and this dude was trying to pull out of a parking spot, and there was a guy in like a little, it's like a Chevrolet 2500 pulling a one car hauler. You know, granted, he shouldn't have been parked there, but the guy pulling out should have done a better job of not running all up over that guy's fucking truck. So he hit a parked car, which is, you know, it's automatically his fault, which is a bad day for his company, a bad day for him. While he was sitting there, another guy walks around from behind the truck and was like, "Hey man, you drug your trailer down the side of my truck," which is also horrendously terrible because every time I've had that happen with us, you're looking at least $1,000 to put a bumper back on a truck and make it look nice. So you just kind of want to like talk to these guys and make sure they got a little bit of common sense that if a turn is too tight or something to that effect, they're going to get out and look, and they're not just going to like try to be like, well, I think I can make it. Also, I've really noticed that drivers that are super arrogant during the interview turn out to not quite be the best, you know, as far as productivity and making money. And I'm not like, the reason I think is because they have an overinflated ego, and they think that just because they're there, it's good enough. But you know, the name of the game is to make money, and if the wheels aren't turning, then money's not being made. So that's important. And what the guys fail to realize is that, you know, especially if you're a younger business owner, yes, they've been driving a truck for however long, but they're not running a business. And odds are most of them don't really know how to run a business because they've never had to. Like recently, a driver that, you know, I had to let go, he did a phenomenal week. You know, he grossed like 7,500, you know, give or take, nice round number. It was right around that. So he couldn't figure out why I was pissed as fuck about his performance that week. He's like, I grossed $7,500. Why are you so fucking mad? Blah, blah, blah. I said, well, driver, you spent $1,400 in fuel, which I went back and averaged the miles for that week versus the gallons that he bought. It come out to be like 5 miles a gallon, which is horrendously terrible for my truck because I you know, he's temporary. I average anywhere from 9 to 11 miles a gallon depending on what I'm hauling. So he was getting half the gas mileage I was. On top of that, I don't know how you put 48.1 gallons of fuel in a truck with a 48 gallon fuel tank. You know, it's more than the truck can actually hold. So that's things you got to look for. I can't say that driver was selling diesel fuel, but when you have more fuel being purchased than the truck physically holds, it's just stuff to look for. You know, and also he had 3 blowouts in a 5 to 10,000 mile trip, which that would indicate to me that he's driving the truck way too hard. Well, you know, when you combine that with really bad gas mileage and, you know, you're having tires blow out like crazy, that's a strong indication that that driver is driving way faster than he's supposed to. And I had once had a guy tell me that 99% of the problems that you're going to have on the road are in fact driver related, and that is 100% true, because these trucks, as long as you maintain them like you're supposed to, you know, i.e. Change the oil, service the transmissions, you know, get tires when they're needed, make sure the tires got air in them, you know, lug nuts are tight, you know, you won't have problems with these vehicles, and anything that comes up in the process is, you know, is driver related. Like, for example, that same driver sheared all the lug studs off of a tire, kept driving it, destroyed a hub and 2 rims. So that, a hub and a drum assembly on a 10,000 pound axle is roughly $500. Wheels and tires, you can get them for as cheap as 130 each. So, this driver done around $1,000 worth of damage. And what had happened was when he changed the tire, he didn't go back and make sure the lug nuts are tight, which is something you need to do. So he just drove it until the lug nuts fell off, and he come back and said that the wheels were the wrong size for the trailer. So that's just another example of what I'm talking about. Like with drivers, you got to make sure your driver is not, lazy. They gotta actually do their pre-trip inspections, because if you do your pre-trip inspections, you would actually catch stuff like that, and it wouldn't become a problem later on. And you can't really gather that much from a driver just from like a 30-40 minute interview, but you'll want to give like a probationary period, whether it be 30 days, 60 days, maybe 90 days, and that'll by the 30th day, from my experience, you will be able to tell how productive the driver is going to be and whether or not you want to retain him or let him go. Because yes, your truck can make good money with a good driver, but a bad driver can cost you way more than that truck will ever make. I know some stuff I listen to, or I try to pick up on when I'm doing an interview, is for whatever reason, if a driver says, they make a reference like, I've got 15 years of experience, and they say it with like a boastful voice, or I'm not a fucking rookie, I've had them tell me that too, or something along those lines. You just need to be careful about about that guy, because he's very, very possible he's not going to turn out very well. And you may want to just ask him a couple of questions about like chaining and tarping and minor regulations, like for example, when do you not use edge protectors, because that's very important, and that'll get you skin up later on if you don't have that kind of equipment in place. And it's also going to let you know if they're lazy or not. Like, I'll give you another example. I had a driver tell me that somebody cut his strap, just cut it at a truck stop. And on the surface, it looked like somebody might have just walked by the truck, cut that strap with a razor blade, and just kept on going. But when he got back to the terminal and I went out there and looked at his strap, I flipped it over and I was like, dude, you cut the strap. And of course he went crazy. I didn't do it, blah, 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 blah. And I said, look at this. You see this nylon? He's like, yeah, I see the nylon. When you pull it tight over something, it's going to stretch it tight over that load. And he's like, yeah. I said, you see these drag marks right here? He said, yeah. That's where it's stretched tight over your load. And I said, you see how these drag marks stop right here at this cut? He's like, yeah. I said, that was because that nylon strap was pulled tight over that corner, and it finally cut through there while you're driving down the road. I said, where's your edge protectors at? And he's like, well, I didn't think I needed them. All right, well, you know what? We don't need you either, so peace out. And, you may not want to just cut him loose right away, but, you definitely need to counsel that driver and make sure that they know their deficiencies, because certain loads with like sharp corners and like steel, you're required to have edge protectors. So, and if you don't, you're going to get a bad inspection when you go in the scale house. Believe me, I've had to fax those inspections back to the FMCSA, or the state which they came from. You need to make sure your driver can fill out a logbook properly. That is super important. And you may want to like ask a question like, well, if you're at a loader, you've been sitting there for 20 minutes and you're not, you anticipate that you're not going to be loaded anytime soon, what are you going to do? Because, that's fairly important, because you can waste a lot of time during the day if you're just sitting there not doing anything. Any experienced owner knows that. So like you'll have a driver say, well, you're technically on duty because you're waiting to be loaded. Well, you're also just sitting in your truck probably watching YouTube videos, which doesn't count as work. So anybody that's has any money making knowledge about them will tell you, hey, you need to go off duty until you go back to getting a load or actually being loaded, because you're just gonna waste your day by doing that. And any time not spent moving freight is lost revenue, and that hurts the bottom line. And if a driver is that hard up about sticking it to the company, so to say, you may want to be leery of that guy in the first place. So that is a good sample of what you need to look for when you are, vetting for your drivers. Also, if a driver's dad comes to the interview and the dad starts rambling off about how he knows all this and that about, trucking, and he expects this for his son, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, be leery to that guy also. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today. I'll try to get some more videos uploaded for you guys here before too long. If you like the content, leave me a comment and let me know what you guys want to learn about. Peace out.